This is Radio Lewisham, bringing the best local shows to your ends.
Hello. This is Nesh.
And this is Coyote, and we are Radio Lewisham. This is going to be our fourth episode of...
Fourth or fifth?
This is the fourth, definitely.
You sure?
Yeah, it's definitely the fourth. But yeah, we're doing Nesh and K Talks, and today we have a guest with us. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey, it's me, Fires Ahmed. I'm internet personality, otherwise known as Dragdar.
Okay.
Yeah, streamer on Twitch, other platforms too.
Mm-hmm.
Glad to be here.
Lovely, nice to have you, man.
Nice to have you, man. One of our closest friends growing up, I'd say. I can't lie, I brought you on a whim. That's a lie. The reason why I brought you on today was because, as someone that has spoken to a number of young people in not just Lewisham but just in general, a lot of people think the creative space is like insane. It's like the dreamland of, you know what I mean? It's like the big dream now for like most people. You know, back in the day, everyone wanted to go to a bank, like wanted to go to astronaut or be a footballer. I'm not saying it's not as popular now, but I'm saying like a lot of people, they look at like
streaming is definitely like blown up quite a bit. I think we can definitely thank like people like
Kaisana,
Astro Speed, definitely making it a lot more mainstream. A lot of people know they just know it more now. So we just kind of want to talk to you about how it is, you know, being a content creator in I feel like UK might be a lot different to someone who is in the US, because I think we see a lot of like content creators in the US, so you know it's a bit of a different view coming from someone from the UK. Yeah,
I mean, I can definitely give a lot of insight into that, especially I mean there's multiple layers to it. Obviously being a creator that isn't like at the top with you know, all the fancy lights and money and glory, you know, it's definitely not quite as lavish as that, and getting into the industry, especially when it's quite saturated a market, can be quite a difficult thing to do. But I mean, people see the highlights of, you know, as you said, Astro Speed and Kaisanat, and they see the thousands of subscribers and they think it's all glitz and glamour, but to actually begin with, to get your like stamp in the industry, to get people to even watch you to begin with, it's a massive ordeal. And my intention to begin with was, well, I mean, it's 2024 now, and doing the standard route through a 9 to 5, especially with the current economy, isn't just going to cut it. You know, like people are working their lives off just to be able to live, and some people can't even achieve that, right? And for me, at least, I would say that the best way through is kind of getting with the times, and the current times are, if you have attention on the internet and being able to monetize that, then that's like the best way of being able to make a larger amount of money than your standard 9 to 5. And that was my intention going in. Little did I know to begin with, you're working more than a 9 to 5 if you actually want to get anywhere. Fortunately, I'm quite blessed to have a reason for people to want to watch me to begin with. Obviously, I play a video game called League of Legends, which I happen to be very good at. So it's because I played it for 14 years. I ended up being one of the best players in the UK, and I can sort of have that as an attraction for people to want to watch my stuff. And, you know, if I didn't have that, I probably wouldn't do it to begin with, because getting people to be interested in you, watching you, is very, very difficult. And for a long time, you basically don't make any money to begin with. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of layers to it. If you have any other...
Yeah, I was going to say, like, in terms of, like, because obviously for me and Coyote, we've actually seen you go through that journey. Like, from the outside looking in, we're always, like, I remember at the very beginning of it, like, as everyone knows, like, especially when you're coming up with your friends and, you know, they're going through their trials and tribulations, when they show you, like, a clip that's gone viral in a community, like, I remember your first Reddit clip. I think I was in the clip. I don't know. I'm not too sure, but I can't remember. But I just remember it, like, going off and, like, you know, you kind of getting recognized, just not necessarily by the wider community just yet, but just seeing it go on the top of like a Reddit page, for example, back when I actually cared about Reddit. Like, it's crazy, right? And it's like, you know, we also got to see, like, because obviously I know you mentioned being one of the best, but just the process of like the fact that you played on a couple of teams as well, right? And that semi-pro life of like gaming, like, a lot of people think it's like quite easy, quite quite glamorous, right, so to speak. So I just wanted to like get your thoughts on like that transition, or like, did you find it easier when you were playing for a team, or do you find the content creation aspect a lot more freeing?
I mean, it depends on the person, I would say. It's definitely an individual approach, whether you would prefer playing on a professional team or whether you would prefer doing content. Obviously, in my case, I actually quit playing professionally to do content, as I feel like it suited my personality better. And the reason that I did that was, if you're playing professionally, well, I mean, it depends on the game and the market and the industry, but again, you're kind of dedicating your entire life. I would be practicing playing the game like 12, 13 hours a day, just because, I wanted to be the best of the best. And just for context, if you wanted some numbers on the amateur scene, or like semi-pro as it's called, even though I was playing 12 to 13 hours a day, including the practice games with the team, I was making like 400 quid a month. And yeah, Jesus. Obviously, if I were to put those numbers to anyone doing a 9 to 5, they would be like, yeah, I'm not doing that. Like,
that is crazy.
So to be a pro player is really about passion and competitive drive. And if you kind of have that spirit to want to be the best of the best and perform in that way, you kind of sacrifice everything else. And it well and truly is very unhealthy. Some people are like, oh, you need to have this work-life balance. But the truth is, if you want to succeed in that industry, it's an unhealthy endeavor, and you have to dedicate a lot of your time and hour, and you're just sitting there at a PC grinding away. And obviously there are other downsides to that industry. I mean, I can get into details with that if you want. I have a lot of...
I mean, you can go into details as far as like not stirring the pot, but yeah, like, in terms of like...
Make the pot a little bit spicy.
In terms of relevance to your journey, you could probably delve into that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm not going to name any names, although I could. Yeah, so within esports, as it's called in the industry, and playing competitive, there are a lot of downsides that people don't tell you about. So as you would hear from the general community or people that don't know very well, they're like, oh, you're just sitting at your computer playing games. How can it be so hard, you know? But the reality is, well, one, there is no job security. And even in the contracts... if you're not performing to a degree that they're content with, which also within the contract has no defined description of, so they could just define anything you do as bad. Yeah. So even if there's no like actual bad performance, they could just say that you're playing bad and just kick you from the team.
That is crazy.
In the middle of a split. And that would be, for some people, their living wages. I played with someone on my team. He was Danish, I believe. And about 2 weeks into the split, and a split is about 8 weeks long, maybe a bit more, they just kicked him, and he was like, I can't pay rent, I can't afford rent, and they just kicked him, and there was nothing he could do about it, because that was how it was in the contract. And that was pretty disgusting to see. And fortunately I was never a victim of that kind of treatment, but there were many people I knew that they basically couldn't afford to pay rent or live because they just got kicked by a team, and they didn't care. They don't care. So.
And that's another thing that I was going to say, like in terms of like, I mean, just competition in esports, like obviously it is quite a thriving, like in terms of the industry itself, it's not like, it is one of the industries that is losing money. It's not something that, gets, like over time we see more and more esports teams like dropping out of relevant leagues. I know you don't play it, I play Valorant, but recently one of the teams had dropped out of being able to compete for Valorant because they just couldn't afford it. And that's at tier 1 level, so that's franchise level. But well, I don't know if it's franchise, it might have been tier 2. I can't remember. That is information I probably should clarify next time. But at the same vein, just seeing teams drop out. I think one of the teams that dropped out was actually a team that won the first Valorant. Yeah. Like, wow. What do you call it? International. Oh, okay. So that's crazy in itself, by the way, that they can't sustain themselves because of that ordeal. Do you know what I mean? And in terms of players, like, people getting cut midway. Like, imagine you're working for like, those who work 9 to 5, like after you survive your probation, basically. Okay, survive is a tough, like a bit of a
I mean, understandable these days.
But in terms of like, once you pass your probation, that's it. Like, if your role is full time, you're there. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And it's like after you survive probation, that period of time, it's very hard for an organization to actually remove you from them.
And
Do you know what I mean? Without you doing something colossally wrong. And
I feel like you actually have metrics as well. Like if you are actually working a 9 to 5, they can actually pull up and say, okay, we can see you actually haven't met like X, Y, and Z. The numbers, like there's actual proof. Whereas I think when you're doing like, you know, you're playing in pro play, to say like it's just such a nothing burger to say if you don't perform well. And in your mind it's like, okay, I mean, I'm gonna perform the best that I can, and then out of nowhere you just get kicked like that. It's like,
I mean, that was what I was referencing in the contract clauses. It would literally be in my contract, it would say, if you perform bad and we're not happy, we have the potential to kick you.
Yeah.
That's the line. There are no defined numbers.
Yeah,
no
that's what I mean.
And
like,
can
it's
you
like
imagine
so
the pressure that that puts on the individual? Like,
absolutely.
And I bet you like 90% of the young people, like, you know, people that are like 16, 17, 18 that are like doing those contracts for the first time, they don't even think about it.
No.
Like reading a contract, like this is one thing I'll say, like to anyone, whenever you go to any, like whatever work you do in the future, whether it's contracted, freelance, like check your contract, man. Like it's so important. Like young people, you might not know that, but that is something that like it has so much power to the individual's life.
I think because a lot of the times like you're just so happy to like, oh my god, like I'm doing this, I'm doing that, like I've been waiting for this for so long, like oh my god, like someone just put a contract in my face, let me sign it. I know like this is my dream, and then you can just get like I feel like getting kicked like that with like no proof. It can just be maybe there's like, I don't know, a problem in the team, or maybe, you know, I don't know, maybe some nepotism going through, like someone just wants to have a point,
100%.
And then you can just say we feel like you haven't been performing well.
I mean, in the demographic of esports is usually quite young kids getting into it as well, from 16 up, well, as long as they're legally allowed to work, right? And so a lot of these kids will not only just neglect reading the contract and sign it immediately because they just think, okay, what could go wrong, and they're very uneducated on that, but because they're young, they see all this legal contract jargon and they're like, I can't be asked to read that. They see a giant PDF of 20 pages, 100%. They can't be asked. And, you know, these companies, they could put whatever they want in the contract and they're going to sign it away, you know. And that does bite some people in the arse, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, we'd be doing that. I know when you sign like for Google, a Gmail account, no one's really going to really read literally all those stuff. Do you know what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying.
And I feel like also on the companies, I feel like it is kind of scummy having like so many like elongated contracts. I feel like a lot of things can be definitely like shortened for people to like be able to read. And it is on you to definitely read it, but I feel like
you have to understand they're doing everything to protect their business
as well.
And that's how it will work. It is unfortunately cutthroat, and that was one thing I was going to say. Like you've said that you've seen multiple teammates drop out and stuff in that time period. Was it like a case of like you just look at the situation and you're like, damn, like did it affect your own motivation, like in terms of playing, because you felt like, I'm not saying you would have been like, oh, it could be me next, but did that ever play a thought onto your mind?
No, I mean, it definitely did. Fortunately, honestly, my story through esports, although it wasn't very fancy, was quite like one of the better stories. I didn't end up being victim to a lot of the scams and the dark side of esports that exists. And part of that is just because, you know, I have a fairly decent head on my shoulders, and I was quite a little bit older when I got into the scene as well. So,
that is true.
And I also had some friends that happened to be lawyers that could read through the contracts for me and make sure I wasn't getting scammed, which was quite fortunate too. So I would highly recommend that.
Not many people have access to a phone being a lawyer. You know, that's not something you could just snap your finger and they just pop up.
That would be nice though, like, if you do have like any like money on the side, just to like hire a solicitor just to read through your contract.
But no one would even think about that.
Yeah, you don't. When you're that young, you're just like really happy to do, you know,
especially when it's like, especially because I'm not saying orgs do this, but a lot of them, it's like they almost like the people signing the contracts. It's almost like a jump for joy, right? Like they don't really think about it. They just think, "Oh my god, I get to do the thing that I love," rather than.
Yeah, I mean, I would recommend a mentality for people getting into that kind of space to adopt is to be like, you should frame it as they should want you, not
Yes.
rather than
Yes.
you want to be a part of them,
100%.
and then see what you can get from them. Obviously, if you're new and starting out, you're not going to have that much leverage because you don't have that many credentials, and you can't say like, "Yo, jump my salary 2x." You don't have that pulling power, but you should still have yourself in that mindset, because these companies, these organizations, they don't. At the end of the day, they don't really care about you, and they're not looking out for your best interest. So you got to look out for yourself.
100%.
And that would be what I would advise if I was going into it again from the beginning, to approach it with that mentality.
Yeah, no, 100% here. I think that's great advice. I was going to say, just bringing it back to like the content creation aspect of it, do you feel like that is one of the biggest draws for your content, that a lot of people know about that side? Or is it like, do you think you've cultivated it through more your personality and just like how you interact with the people in that community? Because a lot of people don't understand that, like, especially when you're trying to make content in a community. So like if you're doing it especially in video games, like a lot of people pick specialized games and they'll try to grind their way up. Do you feel like your career played a part in that, or do you feel like you put in a lot of time into the content, like not to like glaze his stats, but I'm saying like he's got
listen, you can do that if you want.
I mean, you're my boy, I do that anyway, do you know what I mean? But what, you've got 18k followers on Twitch, right?
Yeah.
And you've got, oh my god, that's nearly 11, he's got 10.8k on YouTube.
10.8.
And he's got, but by the way, 271 videos. I just, when did you start taking it like full on? Was it last year?
No, I actually remember the exact date. It was December 2022, and it was when I had one of my first major breakups. That was the motivation. Come on. That's how you
I think that's normal for. Okay, I don't.
If you're listening, break up.
I'm
saying
break up motivation is real, but let's not tell people that to like break up with their partner. That's crazy. But just to pull it back, because this is something that isn't touched on. I mean, this is going kind of delving away from content and your career, but like that personal side. In terms of like, I think this is a real thing, right? But for a lot of men or like young boys, relationships do play, like especially like your first couple of relationships, they really do put a lot of. That's where a lot of your emotional presence is.
Yeah. And
so if you do go through a bad breakup or bad first relationship, it can really play with the individual's mind.
Yeah.
And I think it's not spoken about a lot. Well, I guess a lot of guys don't tend to want to talk about that kind of stuff. I mean, I understand that, but just for the younger audience, like, we don't have to always put a brave face. Like, it's okay to like
chat about it,
but also understand that feeling of like, sadness and grief. Do you know what I mean?
Just literally going through the motions.
You gotta feel your emotions, man.
Yeah, man. There's 100%. I feel like that's something that I had to do at one point. I'm sure, as you said, that was your breakup motivation. But like, so it was 2022, and you got
December 2022.
And it's like what? So from there, you've done you've probably done over 200 videos since. I don't know if that includes your shorts, but I do think that's impressive. Yeah. And to just kind of keep it consistent. I don't know how much I actually glazed you. I can't remember. But
hey, listen, keep it going, buddy. Keep it going. I had a bad weekend. I need it going, bro.
I get it, but I'm just saying, like, as a lot of us don't really realize, like, at the beginning, like, obviously Fires is lucky enough to have that, like, he had avenues in, but one of the biggest things to me is like people don't really realize that, like, when you're trying to do that whole streaming thing, sometimes it does just take one little thing to kind of break you out. I mean, like, IShowSpeed was like, I remember it was the Cristiano Ronaldo Sui, you know what I mean? And that's what made that was a viral clip of his, right? And that came from one person donating to him. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
I think another person that was like actually kind of insane. I don't watch them too much. Actually, I'm not even gonna lie, I don't really watch them at all. But I think his name is like that one. Sorry, real quick. That was a bit rude. Yeah, but I don't watch them. But his name is Jinxie, and I think he had like for so long. This guy was streaming like I think like 14 to like 16-hour days, and he was just like don't get me wrong, he's like cracked at the game, but just streaming to like literally one viewer.
And it was his dad, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think it was his dad. And I remember, I think it was a video about him, and that's how I knew about him. And now, like, the amount,
of the biggest,
it's insane. But just like, I think there's like this thing called like, I think it's like Twitch stats, and you can like see in like cubes how many like times they've streamed. And I don't think he missed a day.
Wow.
Like for like I think like 2 to 4, like 4, maybe 4 years.
Yeah.
He didn't miss a day.
But that's what I'm trying to say.
And it's like how long you have to. Like,
I do want to jump in on that though. That's such a misunderstood thing about streaming. Yeah. Like all of the biggest streamers that you know, all of the famous streamers with the glitz and the glamour, and of course there are exceptions that kind of skyrocket within weeks.
Yeah.
But Ninja, Tfue, IShowSpeed, Jinxie, as you were saying. These guys have been streaming to literally dead rooms for years.
Dead rooms and Nightbot.
Yeah, and they just keep it going. And it's really about perseverance and being able to like push through that. And I mean, it can be sad for some people that put in that amount of work and they don't have the glory story. You know, it is a bit of survivorship bias for the people that do win. You know, 100%. There are people that try very hard and they end up having to give up that dream because it doesn't end up going that way. But like the first thing you need to be able to do to succeed in a career like this is to have perseverance and to be able to do it without immediate return.
Yeah, I think that's one thing in this generation, especially with like just in general, right? Like the way technology has moved forward, the way like access to services has moved forward, like instant gratification is such a big thing for like the younger community. And you know, as someone that has nieces that have tablets at the age of 3, bruv, like I can't lie, bruv, I had a toy. You know what I'm saying? I had a singular toy. I didn't have a controller.
My Hot Wheels cars.
Yeah, exactly. Hot Wheels. Oh
couple
my
Legos
days.
here and there.
Bro, I remember when
Bionicles.
I was like 10.
God, hey, we're gonna start ranting about something. I was gonna bring out Beyblades, fam.
No, I was gonna say like when I got my first Beyblade, I was like, what, 7?
Yeah.
I was gassed, and I'm thinking like, when I look at my niece, she's getting a whole phone at like 9, and I'm like,
I think it's probably a touchscreen as well.
Yeah, it was touchscreen. I'm like, right, bro, I had a Nokia brick.
Yeah, I was saying, I had the
ages,
bricks,
bro.
fam.
I mean, that's the dark side of big entertainment as well.
Yeah.
With TikTok and YouTube Shorts. It's just all about instant gratification. Scroll. It's like it triggers your dopamine over and over again.
I was also going to say the difference between I think like old content creation, like the videos. A lot now, you kind of need to be on like
clip farming.
Yeah, on the shorts.
So clip farming. So shorts is basic. So shorts and TikTok are platforms in which you basically put in short form content.
Yeah.
So they usually last for about maybe, you know, to like it could go up to like maybe 2, 3,
10
4
seconds to like maybe
on
YouTube it's up to a minute. On TikTok
so
maybe longer.
Yeah. So and the reason why is because you're basically getting really fast instant gratification from these clips. So they'll do something in the moment. So a lot of streamers they will typically clip. I don't know if anyone would know this term, which is clip farming, but essentially they do things for clips. It's creating really.
I mean, I can tell you, I poured a water bottle or 2 on my head just for a clip.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you'll be surprised, but it does a lot. It brings a lot. Yeah. It brings a lot of interactivity to the stream, and that's the thing that like most people forget, man. Like, there's a lot of work, whether it's short form and long form content. Do you know what I mean? But I haven't. I don't know if we've mentioned it, but obviously you've been streaming, but you know the real work isn't actually the actual streaming, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that's a misconception that a lot of people have, is to grow your stream to begin with, the thing that you do the least of is streaming. Yes. It's a very paradoxical idea, but
paradoxical, but kind of beautiful at the same time. Cause it don't make sense, but
it works.
Yeah, and the actual way that you should approach it is use your stream as kind of a base that you create all this other content on other platforms around, which has the higher chance of going viral and getting more interactions. And then through those interactions, it's like a siphon back to your stream. So first and foremost, the biggest thing that you can do is, you know, get posts and clips, as we mentioned, on Reddit, on Twitter. I mean, Twitter's very, very popular for me. You know, I post things that get tens of thousands of likes randomly that I don't expect. And then through that, they end up coming to your Twitch. But yeah, streaming is like the last thing you want to actually be doing, you know, which is funny. So
it's funny, but I think that's where people, like, they see the stream, they see the numbers, but then they don't really. It's like looking at a book or film by its cover. Do you know what I mean? Like they see one little instance and they're like, whoa, like that's That's all of it. But they don't actually know the back end work of it, like
all the connections you got to make and stuff.
I mean, if I was to give an example, it's like there are lots of celebrities that you just know the names of, and it's not that you watch their main content or what they do, but you've just heard of them through big stories, or you've heard of them through viral moments, and it's the exact same thing.
Or
that
scandals
and
stuff
exactly,
like that.
Exactly. And it's the exact same thing that you'd have to do for yourself, where you want people to know about you through these, stories or clips or whatever, and then by just knowing about you, that's how you get more, people in the door, right? So yeah.
But yeah, I was gonna say just to kind of add to that, it's like one thing that I think a lot of people don't know. I mean, your type of content, I don't feel like it's both educational, but like it's your personality. It's like how you just associate with us. Even like we could come into the stream, you'll notice one of us chatting, and you'll just reply to us as you reply to us in our normal lives. But I was gonna say, like, I know before you started streaming, or like when you said it was the 8th of December 2022, right?
Yeah, I don't know how you remember that. You got good.
That was really good. I was good. Yeah.
No, but I remember you saying, like,
did I break up with you?
No. Hell no. First of all, that's crazy.
You get a prenup, fam. You might get some money for it.
Whoa. I wonder how much money I could get.
That's what I'm saying.
I ain't got nothing in my life.
No, but I was gonna say, like, your mentality, I think, is one thing that I have to commend you on in terms of like the way you take yourself. Because a lot of people, when they get into streaming, some people just want to do the most clown, outlandish, like they don't care if they harm another person.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to come back to like the morality.
Yeah, I feel like we've also seen a lot
like
that.
your norms and values. Like I feel like that's a strong thing and why people can actually connect with you, because you're just a regular guy that just wants to play games.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I feel like sometimes people, I can't lie, I read a book and then I think I heard it like I can't remember if it was a movie or a show I was watching, but basically someone was giving advice to someone else, and it's like they wanted to know if they could do basketball still, because they had this passion for basketball, but then they kind of lost it because there's so many other feelings that come with it because of that the relationship of the person they introduced them to the sport kind of got torn. And so like it can kind of change how you feel and your passion can die. But the person speaking to him was like, well, think about it like this, right? Look at basketball, look at your love for it, right? If you strip everything away, so all the other people around it, do you still love basketball at its core? Just basketball?
Yeah.
And obviously the girl had said yes, and she went back to playing basketball. But that realization of there's so many things that we layer
on top
our
of
emotions on top. And so like, I'm just saying from a point of view, like, I know you said it was, the breakup that kind of gave you that motivation, but I feel like you had a very like still mind about it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like you went into it like, okay, I want to do this, but I also want to do it my way, and I don't want to compromise myself to become something. Do you know what I mean? I felt like you've kept to that.
You're still yourself, yeah.
And the reason why I'm highlighting this is because for the younger generation, like, look, man, I always say, as long as you don't harm yourself or harm anyone else, do what you want, man. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, whatever goals you dream to do, do you know what I mean? Dream big, but don't compromise your character for it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that insight. There's a lot of depth in there that I could definitely sort of talk about. But strictly for content as well, it's a very common thing that people feel like they need to become someone else or something else and copy other personalities and fall under, being a bit crazy.
And so that's why some people have personas, right?
Yeah,
like they adopt a completely different identity when they're streaming.
I think that's also so weird, like when people have a persona and then maybe you see like a really odd interaction with them, like IRL, like their fans will come up with them with the same energy and they're just completely bewildered, like, bro, what are you doing? And it's like, it's kind of like a double-edged sword. It's like, I can see why you do it because it obviously does gain the views. Like a lot of the views, I mean, and things that go viral are like some of the most outlandish stuff, either to the person inflicting them themselves or to like random civilians, like random people that, they're not involved in the content. And then that kind of guy has this personality, and then maybe, I mean, obviously off stream he's not like that, and then the fan will come up to them and it's like, they're just like, no, like, what are you doing? You just like, hey, you know, relax. Like, we can take a picture, but you know, you need to calm down. And it's like, it compromising yourself. I feel like in the long run, it is gonna like take a toll.
Harm you. It will harm on you. It's like you might think it's small now, but like longevity wise, it will come back to you.
Yeah,
and that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like that's one thing that I'm like, I can say as your friend, like proud to see that from you.
I appreciate that.
You've never switched up. Like, even with the boys, bruv.
Wait till next week.
We love
wait till this guy pulls outside with a Lambo.
Start flexing
he's got a bust down and everything, fam.
I can't imagine
with a bust
down. Walk up and just pick up the wrist.
Yeah,
I can barely afford a sausage roll in the morning. I don't know about that.
Oh no, that's what you can't afford Greg's. That's tough. No, but I was gonna say, like, to kind of not completely round it off. We still got about 8 minutes left. But what I would say is, you know, we've spoken about your career, we've spoken about your path, spoken about your motivation. But has there been like any moments, not about self-doubt, but like, because one thing I know we touched on it, but connections. Do you feel like because of your first part of your career where you was kind of like a gamer, because that opened the network to you, do you feel like that network has like, not saying it influenced you, but like positively helped you in a way? Because obviously when you first started out, like, I remember I was the one that even told you about the league side, like UK scene about it. Do you remember? Like,
I remember.
I know because you started in the German league, like tier German, 3, right? Yeah. So it's like, how has your kind of network influenced like your career path, would you say?
No, I mean, it's absolutely been beneficial. Like, right through the get-go, I had connections that led me to partnering with other streamers right at the beginning, almost like in a couple of months. And that's what I said earlier in the podcast. If I were to do it all again and I didn't have my 14 years of experience playing League of Legends and the connections, I wouldn't do it. It's very, very difficult, I won't lie. And to be able to get your foot in the door does rely on a bit of luck. It does rely on a bit of...
I was literally going to ask, like, getting in the door, how welcoming is the community? Because I feel like literally I've seen like so many people, like, they either fall flat, like the community doesn't like them, and they don't like, there's like that barrier of, okay, like I've kind of built myself up and get the numbers, now it's like getting like getting into the community, like contact with streamers and stuff like that. Like, how
well, I mean, as I said, it's an industry where it's very, very cutthroat and very, very saturated. So I don't want to speak upon everybody, but a lot of people in the industry are very self-interested, and they will only take collaborations or help you if it helps themselves, or you know. And
it has to be a give and take, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, obviously, if you're just trying to take from everyone, you're a bit of a leech.
But, not a leech. Not a leech. Anyone wants to be.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, it definitely can be welcoming. It depends on the kind of person you are, and that's where we talked about character. Yeah. I think a lot of people in the community respect me just because I'm kind of no BS.
You're straight to the point of how you feel.
Yeah, and I'm very, very how to put it, authentic with how I approach people and my intentions. You know, if I want to try and do a partnership, I'll say, I'm looking for a partnership and this is what I'm trying to achieve with it. But yeah, as I mentioned before, and to your original question about how my network and experience has helped me in my career, no, absolutely. And that's what I'm saying. If I didn't have that, I wouldn't do it. Just because going from, like, on Twitch specifically, 1 viewer to 50,
that's a
for most people would, I mean, for most people that would take like a year, if not more, unless something lucky comes across. And some people do go viral. They are exceptions.
As well as like the game you play. I feel like if you're playing in a very, like, I remember there was this one, it was an experiment. It's like, depending on like what game you play, go sort by top and to least view and start scrolling. My
so many people.
God, it is insane before you get to like single digits, bro. Yeah.
And if you think about how people approach platforms like Twitch, they just want to watch their favorite streamer. And so when you're on Twitch, you see the people with the biggest numbers and you click on them. If you're like a 10 viewer newcomer to the stream, nobody is going to see you. Nobody cares. Nobody knows you. They don't want to click on. I don't want to be rude, but nobody cares, really. And that's why you have to be very proactive about getting your stuff out there on other platforms, as I mentioned. And so for me, I was very lucky. And I say lucky, but I played this game for 14 years. I hope it would result in something.
You put the work in.
If I played piano for 14 years, I'd be in concerts.
I'm just saying, he played that game for 14 years. I've played the game for like 10. I swear down, he bullied us for the first time.
It's true. This guy was a bit of a demon.
We did not get to have fun in customs. Any free to get, it just wasn't for us, bro. I'm pretty sure he didn't even want to play with us at the beginning.
Yeah, we were just too bad, fam.
I'll be honest now, I didn't.
I can imagine.
If I were to give advice to people that want to go into this industry, I would highly, highly recommend it. If I was starting over again and I didn't have my experience, it would be get your standard 9 to 5 and do this as a hobby. Do it as a hobby until it gets to a point where you have grown it and that it is able to sustain you. And then if it makes you enough money, then you can quit your job and then go all in on that.
And I want people to also know that, like, when you do that, understand the reason why is that the normal 9 to 5, not even, it doesn't have to be a 9 to 5. It could be contracted well, whatever pays what you need it to pay for, right? Like, you need something for your livelihood. If you want to enjoy your life somewhat, even just like, bro, the economy, just how things have changed over the years, like, it is hard now. And my biggest thing is, like, remember, right, if you feel like you can't do that as well as the streaming thing, then how much do you really want it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, for some people, not everyone has the privilege to just be able to, stream or make content. Like, some people have to pay bills. Some people live on their own. Some people,
it really just depends.
They're living with like an elderly parent, or do you know what I mean? Like, not everyone gets the luxury to do that kind of thing, right? And if it's something that you're passionate about, like, you'll have enough time for it, bro. There's 24 hours in a day. You'll only sleep. The max you're meant to sleep is like 8.
Well, I mean, if it's me, about 13.
If it was me back in the day, 4 hours, because I was bad, bro. Yeah. But 100%, I like the advice that you gave at the end. I think that's very fitting.
Yeah.
And, I just want to bring it back full circle and just like, we're really appreciative that you've come on this show and kind of just
big up.
Shared your experience, especially like, I know, like, listen, before anyone asks me, yes, it may be a League of Legends streamer, it may not be a streamer of like,
what's wrong with that?
It's not wrong with that. I like it, but I'm saying it's not an IRL streamer, stuff like that, but it's content creation regardless. And I feel like a lot of people can take a lot from Fires', not just his thoughts and opinions, but his experience, man. Like, bro, he just grinding for that long, and especially like 2022 was just after COVID, isn't it?
Yeah.
So like, that's a lot, man. That's a lot of change and a lot of things to kind of get your head straight. So yeah, like I said, just want to thank you again.
I appreciate it.
Like, we don't get guests like this. I mean, not just guests like this, but you're like one of our best friends. So
I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Much love to you. Anything else you want to say on?
That's all
on
good.
this show?
It's a really good show. So yeah, be blessed.